2020. Good morning. It's 8:30. Today is Thursday, March 27th, 2025. I call to order the Albany Parking Authority meeting. In attendance is myself, Jordan Jones, Bill Pettit, and Jennifer Saponis, as well as relevant APA staff. Can I get an acceptance of the minutes of the Thursday, February 27th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I get a motion to move into the audit committee?
So moved.
Second.
We are now in audit.
Okay. Has everyone had a chance to review the audit committee minutes from Friday, October 25th, 2024? Any questions? Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Minutes have been accepted. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the audit review of 2024. And we have Jonathan Gibbs here from BST who's going to walk us through that audit. So
thank you very much, folks. Thanks for having me so much. My name is Jonathan Gibbs. I'm a partner at BST. We are the independent accounting firm that performs your audit. Been working with the authority for a few years now. In fact, actually, the audit committee re-engaged us during 2024, so we very much appreciate that and very much appreciate our time and experience with the authority. So upfront, I want to say thank you, folks, very much. We performed the audit as of and for the year ended December 31st of 2024, and we issue a variety of reports here. We began our audit process in January, and right now we have the reports finalized and ready to go. On acceptance of the audit committee, Misty, I will be forwarding those to you today so that you're able to do the ACO filing by the 3/31 deadline, which is, as we were talking about, almost here. March is almost come and gone. So I wanted to talk about the different reports that we issue. We actually do quite a few different services for the authority. We do the financial statements as well as a letter to governance, which is you folks as you sit on the audit committee. We have an investment compliance report in accordance with New York State requirements, in addition to a report on internal controls over the financial statements, which is in accordance with government auditing standards. And finally, we have two bond certifications that we do. We have a bond certification that is in accordance with the trust indenture that the authority entered into in 2001 with M&T Bank, as well as a agreed upon procedures report for the authority's debt covenant ratio. So I want to give some highlights here. I'm going to start with the financial statements. I believe you folks all have those financial statements in front of you. We have issued an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we are able to provide in accordance with auditing standards. That's within the first few pages of the financial statement report. I want to kind of skip to and highlight a couple things within your balance sheet and your income statement. So on page 11, that's where I'm going to highlight some items here. So we do a lot of comparison analysis over the years between, obviously, our audit procedures require us to take a look back as to how the authority did in prior years. So giving some variance analysis from 2024 to 2023, there was about a $1 million reduction in assets overall from the authority. That's for a variety of reasons, most significantly being the depreciation expense outpaced the capital asset additions of your fixed assets. There's about $1 million of depreciation and only about $600,000 of additions to the parking authority's capital assets during the year. There was a couple of New York State grants that were outstanding at 12/31 of 2023 that were not outstanding in 2024, as well as some American Rescue Plan money from the city of Albany that was spent down during 2024 and was no longer receivable as it was in 2023. Some increases, though, the authority has an increase in the investments. Those are treasury bills primarily that did not fit the description of cash at 12/31 of 2024 due to their maturity lengths. So those are classified and increased in investments, which you'll see in 2024, but not 2023. Finally, there's a post office lease that was increased. With the post office, their lease receivable was increased because they extended that option to 2029, therefore causing an increase in both the receivables of the authority, as well as the deferred inflows of resources. Moving down to your liabilities, the liabilities decreased about $1.6 million in total. That's primarily because you're repaying your bonds. No new debt issuances during 2024, and some significant principal payments as well in relation to your debt. Finally, in the non-current liability section, the post-employment benefit plans, that increased about $1 million to $6.2 million at 12/31/2024. That is simply basically because the actuarial inputs and primarily the discount rate. The discount rate at 2023 was about 3.72%. That reduction at 3.26% really does increase that liability significantly. Finally, on the bottom of the page, you'll see the net position of the authority increased from $1.3 million at 12/31/2023 to 1.8. And if we go to the next page, just kind of highlight some reasons there as to why that net position increased about $500,000. A lot of it is to do with the operating revenues, particularly the daily revenues, the event revenues, which we've talked about. The event revenues were a significant increase during 2024 compared to 2023, which is obviously some very good news. The authority has some reimbursements from the city, as well as some ARPA funding that they received through the city, and state grants of about $100,000 comprising the rest of your revenues. Within the operating expenses, there's really only three items that stick out. Salaries and benefits increase with normal contractual increases that the authority has. The repairs and maintenance in the next line down also increased from about $900,000 to $1.4 million. I mean, the parking facilities, obviously, they need repairs and maintenance, right? They're aging, still kept in great condition, but to keep them up and running obviously takes a significant amount of investment on behalf of the authority. Then the final item that I would, within the operating expenses, is the licensing fee negotiated between the authority and the city of Albany. That increased about $300,000 from 23 to 24. That had been put off during the pandemic, right? It was zero for quite a few years. It began back in 2023, and now it's increased in 2024. The non-operating revenue and expenses, there's no new debt issuances, so your bond issuance costs decreased. Primarily, that's a component of interest expense offset by a significant increase in the interest income based on the interest rates that the authority earned during 2024. Finally, gets you to that increase in net position of about $470,000 to $1.8 million at year end. Within the notes of the financial statements, there was really no significant new accounting standards or updates this year. If you were to read these financial statements and the notes related to them, that they would look really similar to prior years. Not much on the horizon either that I would anticipate. We can certainly talk about it as we get closer to it. There might be an additional disclosure item based on constraints that the authority might have in future years, but that's certainly something that we can work with management to address as it comes. At the end of the report, there is a report on internal control in accordance with government auditing standards. As we sat here last year, there was we had a finding last year that's been repeated this year based on the adjustments that we had to make to the authority's trial balance for it to be presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. That's it. The authority made great strides this year. That listing of adjustments is about, we've halved it. It's about half the amount of adjustments as we had in the prior year. But there still were some material adjustments to capital assets, as well as cash and equivalents, the leasing activity, as well as some prepaid expenses and expenses cut off. So those, in accordance with our professional standards, when you have material adjustments, they are required to be reported to you folks in your capacity as board members. But I would also state that we have seen significant improvement based on the work that was done in 2024. We've worked with management, both Sean and Misty in particular, to talk about each one of those adjustments. And certainly they've added some internal controls to reduce those adjustments and kind of see that coming to fruition here based on having half the amount of adjustments as we did in prior years. The other reports that we have, the investment compliance report, that's a requirement of the state of New York. The ABO requires us to perform that examination. We found no findings with the investment policy or the investments held by the authority at year end. The only other item that I would really talk about here is the bond covenant. There's a significant amount of work that we do to ensure that the authority is in compliance with their trust indenture that was established with M&T Bank in 2001. work with both Sean and Misty, as well as a lot of legal counsel and bond counsel to get an idea of what the interpretation is of exactly how that calculation is required to be made and performed. Ultimately, we are comfortable with it based on our discussions with bond counsel as well as management's calculation of it. The authority is compliant with that required debt covenant ratio of 1.5. In fact, it's about 1.77 at year end. That's a requirement that the authority has within the trust indenture, and we issue an agreed upon procedures report, which differs a bit from an audit, but basically saying that we are in agreement with management's calculation of your debt covenant ratio. Other than that, we had a pretty successful audit this year. We, very much more on time in terms of getting drafts to you folks earlier than we were in the prior year. I spoke about the less adjustments. Certainly had no significant issues in terms of the estimates management had, no issues getting underlying audit documentation that we're required to receive, and no other significant matters that we would have to bring to your attention and your folks as you sit on the audit committee. A lot there. With that, I'm willing to, any questions that you folks have, I'm willing to answer to the best of my ability. Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So everyone got copies of the audit results and reports previous to the meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Anyone have any questions or any comments? No. Okay.
I'll say just, great job on the improvement that, the authority and staff made from last year to this year. And thank you for the arduous work on it, going through it all and making sure that we have an understanding what position the authority is in and that we're on the right track. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is your recommendation to approve the 2024 annual report and independent audit by the committee moving forward?
Yeah, I'll move.
Second.
Great. Okay, can I get a motion? Well, can I make a motion to amend? I will make a motion to move out of the audit committee effective the board meeting.
Thank you folks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
We are out of the audit committee and we'll take back the resolution 2025-03-01, approving the 2024 annual report independent audit.
Someone.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll move on to the review of financials.
Okay. Moving on to February 2025 financial review. Our goals and objectives, business strategies, continued focus on training and professional growth, focus on increasing garage occupancy, and pursue grant opportunities. Capital improvements and community projects. We're still looking into heated sidewalks, annual repairs and renovations, and mural/sculpture projects. Moving on to our February overview, our revenue was $716,830, while our expenses were $574,052, with a net income of $142,778. Operating account balance is at $1 million, with our payroll at about $260,000, with our available cash of almost $1.3 million. Moving on to our net income history. In comparison to February of 2024, the revenues were lower this year due to decrease in reimbursement grants. We did receive 174,000 reimbursement grants last year, and it was zero this year. Also, there was a decrease in monthly due to some decrease in monthly parking at garage too, and obviously that's not really taken yet. Parking revenues, we have a decrease from January to February. Daily revenue decreased by $20,000. This is mainly due to just having 2 less days in February and January. but we're still beating our projections. And our expenses, it's pretty straightforward. We're right around our projected area. We made all our annual payments, leading to a little bit of a decrease in expenses in February. And obviously, we're just a tad bit below our projections. February is not a very exciting month for us. Our meter revenue, again, we did have 2 less days in February compared to January. But the increase you see is mostly due to session. So we'll start to see somewhat of a plateau as the year goes on, and we'll be closer to that projection number instead of so far over. And again, our daily average just proven that, you know, session did have a big part in the jump in February. But the hybrid work schedule is still kind of in effect. We're still seeing low Mondays and Fridays, higher Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I do want to add, though, that in February, we did have 3 or 4, possibly 5 consecutive days of over $13,000 a day, which used to be the norm before 2019. You know, every day was practically that, so it's a good sign for us. All right, monthly and other revenue. Monthly parking decreased this month, but it continues to be consistent. According to the active pass summary, we did lose 52 passes. 49 of them were from the New York Business Development Group. We were aware that they were leaving. So that was a majority of our February decreases, and I can probably get into that when we get to the active report. Any questions about that before I move on?
Where'd they go?
I don't know if did they move up to Corbel Woods or
British America
oh,
by the airport. Yep. They were actually supposed to leave prior to January and they pushed it back a couple months and. Yeah.
Daily garage and lot revenue continuing trend above projections. Daily parking garage 1 and 2 has been consistent for January and February. And our revenue summary, obviously meter revenue and garage and lot revenue were the clear winners in February. With our event revenue, thank you, Kevin, it's at a negative 249%. But we do have some big events coming in the later year. CrossFit is in August, and we are projecting better than NCAA numbers for that, so that'll be great.
Haven't got to take up an instrument.
Yeah.
Great show.
We're gonna one of those outfits like the tax guys have.
In an arrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry, we're at debt service investment account activity. We deposited $165,000 from this account in early February and another the last day of February. We continue to follow our investment guidelines and are on schedule to make our July, a very large July payment. And our short-term investments. We transferred $200,000 from this account into our long-term account and deposited $100,000 from our operating account. And we also used the $500,000 from this account to purchase a T-bill in early January.
You said very large payment. What is the very large payment?
It's 2.2 or 2.
It's 2.8, but our cash obligation is closer to 2 million because we get to use, we have a set aside, a reserve account from our 2011 or 2018 bonds, which is about 900,000. So, our total obligation is 2.8, but our cash that we have to set aside is 1.98.
Okay, so when are we doing that?
July, yeah.
So we only have 1.4. We're gonna have correct amount.
Yes,
Yes.
July.
yes.
We're on track
We're
to
on
make that
track.
1.9.
Big amount. Our long-term investment account activity, we made our annual deposit into this account in February, $400,000. So that's a big improvement for us over the years. We deposited 200,000 from our operating account and the 200 from our short term. So we're well on our way. Just to remind the board had set a goal of 15 to 30% of the budget to be invested into our long-term account. And EV charging. We did receive our Q4 revenue from the chargers for $3,400 in mid-February. So you're going to see that activity in the next quarter. But those numbers have been consistent. And with that, that is the end of the February 2025 financial review. Any questions or comments?
Revenue history.
Yes, ma'am. That is on 5B. Again, just as an overall, looking at the parking system early on in the year, you can see the difference. We had a little more event revenue in January and February of last year. So we're close to around our monthly average, and we expect to be around last year's numbers, if not greater, as far as the average is concerned. Just looking for anything that's significant of an increase. No, very consistent.
Numbers.
And our key numbers. That is page 5C. Again, just showing our yellows are the special event income, our maintenance and repairs, professional fees, our snow expenses, and insurance expense. These 4 out of these 5 items will they'll even out throughout the year. So they may remain in yellow and come back to a more of a green state, but management has no concern about being exceedingly over the budget. Insurance expense we can never really account for in the beginning, and it's always more than what we anticipate, unfortunately. Any questions on key
Do we have a
numbers?
snow expense or?
No, so the snow expense is actually, it's a mix between the contract we have for the lots and our salt expense as well. So it tends to look as though it's over budget in the beginning of the year, but then we don't pay on it until I think the contract starts November, December.
Yeah, we pay 5 months out of the 12, and it's in April installments.
Does it include the melters?
No, that's just a gas expense.
Is it significant?
Utilities on those? Yeah, I mean, it can be, it wouldn't be included in this particular line, but once we do have to, start those up, they've used a significant amount of gas. But nothing out of the ordinary. We still had a slower snow year than we have in the past. Well, the past 3 years have been slow snow years for us.
Can you break them out from the utility expense?
I don't think so. That's a little tough. If you're
Just
talking
gas,
about,
right?
yeah, you're talking
Do we
about
have
trying to
gas
figure out
anywhere
what the therms are. Yeah, well, I mean, we have like heating gas and that sort of thing, like for our offices. Modem heaters, stuff like that.
Okay.
I mean, we can give you a good idea of what the gas, usage is on those months, and you can probably, we could probably tell. We'll have an increase that is.
I mean, if it's 10 grand for the year, that might be worth keeping an eye on, but if it's not, I don't know.
Okay. Noted.
There's a snow melter in every garage.
We just have one in garage 1 and garage 2. The one in garage 1 is fairly new. We did replace that about 4 years ago. And the one in garage 2 will be due to be changed out in a few years.
Just garage too.
Greenhouse and garage, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Enforcement number.
Enforcement numbers. Enforcement had a great start to the year. You could tell us in their ticket revenue in January and February, especially in January, was significantly higher than last January. February again showing that same trend. And Doug did inform me that in March we should be seeing a record-breaking year. And I just want to add that they're in the middle of changing out some license plate recognition equipment on their vehicles. Very little downtime. It's been much smoother than prior years. So they're still on pace to have a record break in March, and we'll see how that turns out, as long as Doug doesn't screw that up. But we're doing good. Any questions about enforcement numbers?
How is the connection between City Hall and renewals of parking taxes then and the street?
I haven't heard, we used to hear a whole lot of chatter about that in prior years. We haven't really heard much about that in the past couple of years. So I think they're, especially with their change in the Parking Violations Bureau now and in the treasurer's office, they seem to be getting a better grip on what's going on with the processes anyway.
I did have one complaint. One.
Yeah.
Communications?
I don't know if we have any communications for this. No.
No business.
New business, RFP and project updates. Downtown bid wayfinding sign installation. They are due to start up in April. So I would assume by the end of May that the sign project will be done. And I am going to be meeting with Georgette next week just to go over logistics of that. We've been helping them out with some of the construction process with allowing some staging at the Quackenbush lot and spots that are not parking spaces. The repair and preventative maintenance, we just had a little setback with the Hudson Avenue redesign. It's just got pushed back a week. Their foreman had an emergency out of the country, so April 8th is when they're actually going to start that. They were supposed to start that, I believe, the first week of April. Yeah. Digital display signs. I am happy to report that all of these display signs are in. They're beautiful. When I did my little tour yesterday with the New York State Parking Association, I got a really nice up close view of these signs. Kevin's team did a great job getting some graphics on there. Devin's team did a great job of managing the project. They're just fantastic looking. I love the lobby signs. They're just nice and bright. Can't mistake any information on them. And then the snow removal. We have every 3 years we go back out to bid for snow removal in the Central Avenue lots and the Quackenbush lot. Man, we do have a resolution for that because we did get some bids in. We scored them and we found that CPS was the lowest bidder out of the how many submittals? Four. Yeah. That is huge. I know. It's definitely
It's not all that.
right.
Are any of these folks that we've worked with before?
Yes, actually CPS is who we had the prior 3 years. They did a great job. Communication was spot on. And I've had some rough contractors throughout the years, and these guys, they do great. Give us a great price.
Great,
Yeah.
fantastic. So we'll take up resolution 2025-03-02. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. To active pass reports.
Active pass report. As I mentioned earlier, we had what appears to be a significant amount of cancellations due to the relocation of New York Business Development Corp. The other 13 cancellations were attributed to federal layoffs at the Leo O'Brien building. So just items kind of out of our control. But we do find we're starting to receive a lot of inquiries about monthly parking for corporate and individual. We're getting a little more traffic now. So we anticipate filling these positions and then some.
Daily rate structure update?
We are, let's see, what was the exact date for that? On Monday, yeah. Thank you. So we'll be doing, just to remind the board, we raised our daily rate by $2, as well as lowered our tiers for our corporate passes. And that will take place on the 31st. Customers did get ample notice of the increase, so no complaints yet.
We'll see on Monday. Meter update?
Meter updates, app-only projects. We just finished up phase 4. We took care of most of the low-performing areas outside of our higher-performing areas, such as outskirts of Broadway, some spaces in Liberty Park, and we also did some app-only areas in downtown on Steuben and Spencer Street. We want to slowly introduce that into the busier areas to just to see, take a temperature to see how folks are feeling about that. We have had State and Pearl app only for a few years now. We've never had any complaints about it, so I'm hoping that we can keep on keeping on. And so far, that's saving us a little over $20,000 a year, just making that small change.
EV charger update.
EV charger usage. So the EV charger usage, there's in February we had a small increase. It's a little less than $100. Just to give you an idea, we typically do around $1,200 to $1,500 a month, depending on what kind of activity we're seeing. So it's still pretty steady. We had a total of the EV chargers last year was about 14,500, and I believe that we're on track to exceed that.
With everything going on with like Tesla and EV charging and things like that, are we doing anything additional to sort of protect or safeguard the chargers that we have, or have there been any issues?
We haven't had any issues, luckily, and I don't see many Teslas in the garages, and we haven't seen any angry individuals going after them either. So
Tesla's have like their own network of chargers, so
Yeah.
hopefully the electric America or NIGO and relay targets.
right. So far, so good.
Grant updates, ESD reimbursement, or the bill grant.
Yes, we did receive the GDA for the ESD grant reimbursement. We're just gathering documents again to submit for the reimbursement. So I do anticipate getting those monies this year. Just a little bit behind schedule, but we're told we're receiving this money, so it's great. And the bill grant, we have not received any updates of our submittal for that.
Any unfinished business?
No, I do not.
Any reason to go into executive?
Yes, for reasons,
H is one.
the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or the proposed acquisition of securities, or sale of exchange of securities held by such public body, but only when publicity would substantially affect the value therefore of.
I got a motion to move to executive.
So moved.
All in favor? Just gonna get a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you.